All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are looking at something a little bit different today, and honestly, a whole lot more terrifying than our usual topics. I'm absolutely fascinated by urban legends, liminal spaces, and those dark, forgotten corners of the American highway system. And today we're breaking down this incredibly chilling narrative called The Last Exit on Route 66, The Secret of Ashwood. It's basically a mystery about a road trip that takes a horribly wrong turn into a place that, according to all known maps and the basic laws of physics, literally shouldn't exist. So let's get into it. Now, I want you to ask yourself a super simple question. Would you take a completely unknown detour just to save a little bit of time on a long, dark drive? Because that is the exact dilemma faced by 26-year-old travel photographer Ethan Carter. The year is 2026. It's a freezing cold autumn evening in Arizona, and Ethan is just driving alone across this totally desolate stretch of Route 66. He's still hours away from his destination in Flagstaff. You know the kind of drive, right? The desert just stretches out endlessly into the pitch black, and literally the only sound is the hum of your own car engine. Well, out of nowhere, Ethan's phone completely loses its signal, and his GPS screen just starts glitching out. And then, a brand new, totally unrecognized route pops up on his dashboard. The system promises him that if he takes this mysterious new path, he's going to save exactly 47 minutes. And 47 minutes is a very specific and frankly a very tempting amount of time when you're exhausted and just staring at a dark road. So, driven by curiosity and probably a lot of fatigue, Ethan taps Accept Route. The GPS then tells him to take a really unusual turn, exit 13. And that brings us to Section 1, the wrong exit, leaving Route 66. Almost the exact second his tires leave the main pavement, the whole atmosphere just fundamentally shifts. Ethan experiences this terrifying sensory deprivation. The environment completely changes around him. The road rapidly narrows down. The desert suddenly becomes entirely devoid of life. There are no insects, no wind, just this heavy, suffocating silence. It's like a complete sensory vacuum. But honestly, the most horrifying detail, when Ethan checks his rearview mirror, the highway he literally just turned off of is completely gone. There's just pitch darkness swallowing up the space right behind his car. He keeps pushing forward, which takes us to Section 2, frozen in 1958. Welcome to Ashwood. He pushes through the panic and drives until he finally sees lights in the distance. He pulls into a small, totally normal-looking American town with a welcome sign that says Ashwood, population 412. But his relief does not last long at all. The contrast Ethan faces here is just jarring. Think about his real world of 2026, right? Modern tech, active reality. He was just solitary driving. But Ashwood is stuck in this eerie, liminal stasis. The streets are lined with completely untouched vintage cars and old movie posters. It's like everything looks exactly as it did in the 1950s. And the people? They're just walking the streets super slowly, totally silent, almost like sleepwalkers under the glow of a 24-hour diner sign. Ethan parks and heads straight into the diner, just trying to find some sense of normalcy. Soft music is playing, but the second he steps inside, every single customer stops moving and just stares at him. This elderly waitress with these really empty-looking eyes walks up to him. And when Ethan nervously jokes that the year is 2026, she just freezes. A terrifying realization hits him. He looks down at a newspaper sitting on the counter, and the date printed right at the top is October 14th, 1958. Every article, every photo, it's all from decades ago. The waitress, whose name is Margaret, suddenly leans in and warns him that he absolutely should not have come here. Right then, things escalate, which brings us to Section 3, the government experiment, a secret facility. Just as she says that, the lights start flickering and this massive deafening siren starts blaring through the entire town. Margaret goes totally pale and whispers, "They found you." Suddenly, everyone in the diner vanishes. Doors slam shut everywhere. Up until now, Ethan had only seen the human residents, the ones sleepwalking and physically frozen in time. But now, the shadow figures show up. These are tall, completely pitch-black, human-shaped entities. They have no faces, no eyes, no mouths. And they don't even run, but they are relentlessly pursuing Ethan, forcing him and Margaret to sprint away and hide in a hidden alley behind a grocery store. Safe in the alley for just a brief second, Margaret drops his heartbreaking history on him. She explains she's actually been trapped there for 68 years. It started in early 1958 when Ashwood was totally normal. But then these government scientists showed up and built a secret underground facility. They brought all these strange sounds, and animals started going missing. Then, on October 14, a blinding flash of light covered the entire town. And finally, at exactly 11:47 p.m., Ashwood was entirely erased from the real world. It got trapped between time and reality. And she tells him anyone who stays too long turns into the very shadow figures that are hunting them right now. She tells him there's only one way out. This leads us to Section 4, Laboratory A13, beneath the church. To escape, they actually have to go down into the place where Ashwood essentially died. They go through a hidden trapdoor, and the environment down there is deeply, deeply unsettling. The air is thick with the smell of rust and decay. There are these old warning signs reading, "Danger, experimental zone," lining the walls. And get this, every single clock they pass is permanently frozen at exactly 11:47 p.m. But the worst part is the noise. The tunnel is filled with these phantom voices, children laughing, women crying, men screaming, just echoing from absolute nowhere as they creep closer to this massive steel door marked Laboratory A13. They get inside this untouched lab, and Ethan finds an old video recording left behind by the lead scientist, Dr. Richard Hayes. In the video, he basically confesses everything. He says, "Our experiment has failed. A living darkness. We can no longer stop it." The scientists had actually accidentally unleashed a force that completely consumed the reality and the time of Ashwood itself. So what exactly did they let through that gateway? Well, as the video ends, the lab goes totally dark, the ground starts violently shaking, and this colossal entity emerges. They call it the Shadow King. And this is the real nightmare fuel, guys. It's defined as a giant living darkness with glowing red eyes. But it isn't just a monster. It's a fundamental force that literally consumes reality, time, and space. And the terrifying truth is, if that dimensional gateway fully reopens, this darkness is going to consume our entire world. Talk about high stakes, right? Let's move to Section 5, the final escape, destroying the gateway. With the Shadow King literally bearing down on them, Ethan frantically digs through the scientist's notes to find a way to shut the gateway down. The notes lay out a really strict escape protocol. Now, they've already done steps 1 and 2, right? They're in the tunnel, they reach the log. But step 3 is where the absolute tragedy hits. They have to manually activate the emergency reactor and then destroy the gateway. But there is a horrifying catch. The reactor chamber is rigged to collapse upon activation. Whoever goes inside to manually pull that lever is going to be locked in, and there's no surviving it. Before Ethan can even wrap his head around this impossible choice, Margaret just grabs the keys. Remember, she has been trapped in this nightmare since 1958. Her family, her whole world, it's all long gone. She steps right into the reactor room, and that heavy steel door locks right behind her. She looks at Ethan through the glass, gives this sad little smile, and makes one final request. She says, "Tell the world Ashwood existed." Then she pulls the lever. A blinding white light completely fills the room. The Shadow King lets out this awful scream, and the entire underground facility shatters into absolute nothingness. And then, just total silence. Ethan suddenly gasps awake inside his car, parked safely by the side of Route 66. It's morning. The warm Arizona sun is shining down. It's like a bad dream, but when he looks back for exit 13, it is completely gone. For weeks, Ethan just obsesses over what happened. He is practically tearing through old maps and state archives, but Ashwood simply isn't there. No records, no documents, nothing. Until one day, his obsessive searching actually yields a single piece of hard evidence. He finds an authentic 1958 newspaper, and right there on the page is a photograph of the town of Ashwood. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, incredibly horrifying thought. As Ethan is staring at this old picture, he notices something truly terrifying right behind Margaret in the background of the crowd. It's a tall, shadow figure with glowing eyes, watching, waiting, and smiling. If the gateway was supposed to be destroyed, why is the Shadow King already there, smiling in a photograph that was taken decades before Ethan even arrived? Is Ashwood truly gone? Or is it still out there, just waiting at the end of some hidden exit, completely hungry for its next visitor? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Stay curious out there, and seriously, be careful which detours you decide to take on your next road trip.